Yara Allen and Sauda Ashe. Let's give it up for them this morning. And the prophet said, call for the minstrel. And when the minstrel sang, the hand of the Lord came upon the prophet. We thank God for being here. I greet you in the name of the God we know as Jehovah Jireh, our God who is our provider. Yeah. You don't know how blessed I feel to be here with my Jewish family. And to be here, I said something one time. I said, Rabbi Fred Gutman is a real rabbi. He said, real rabbi? Well, what is the other kind? But I thank God for him and for his leadership and his deep commitment to social justice and to the fusion that has existed among the African American community, the civil rights community, and the Jewish community. I want for moments to talk about the work of moral dissent is never done. The work of moral dissent is never done. And I want to talk about why Rabbi Gutman and other rabbis, along with 1,006 of us, have been to jail recently together in North Carolina, and why in February, the last 2 years, rabbis have held their Sabbath at a Baptist school, Shaw Divinity, on the second Saturday in February, so that he and other rabbis like Lucy Denner could carry the Torah. Last year, leading 80,000 people with myself, Muslims, Hindus, and others, and this year more than 50,000. Why we believe that today we still must have an indigenously led, state-based, state government-focused, deeply moral, deeply constitutional, anti-racist, anti-poverty, pro-justice, pro-labor, transformative fusion movement at the state level. Because you cannot change D.C. from D.C. down, you must change D.C. from Selma up. I want to talk about why we have challenged and will not stop challenging our governor and our legislature of extremists who are once again engaging all over the South, particularly in interposition and nullification, who have cut unemployment, cut earned income tax credit, cut public education, denied Medicaid expansion to 500,000 people in North Carolina alone, passed the worst voter suppression since Jim Crow and Shelby, and made it easier to get a gun than it is to register to vote 50 years after the march from Selma to Montgomery. I want to talk about why in North Carolina and now in 12 other states, Rabbi Gutman, people are building forward together moral movements. We are black, we are white, we are Latino, we are Native American, we are Democrat, we are Republican, we are independent, we are gay, we are straight, we are people of faith, people not of faith but who believe in a moral universe. We are natives, we are immigrants, we are business leaders and workers, the unemployed, doctors, the uninsured. We are students, we are parents, we are retirees, and we are standing together to lift up and defend the most sacred moral principles of our faith, like the one that Isaiah said years ago, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights. I want to talk about why Rabbi Goodman and others of us have joined together, and we understand that if we're going to challenge extreme policies today, it won't happen with a left-right argument. It won't happen with a Democrat versus Republican argument, but we need a deeper argument, an argument that goes deeper in the foundation of the souls and then elevates us and lifts us above the negativity and points us to the way of truth. An argument that can point out when laws are constitutionally inconsistent, morally indefensible, and economically insane. We need a moral focus that doesn't just curse the darkness, but says in America we can, if we come together around our deepest principles, like the establishment of justice and providing for the common defense and promoting the general welfare. We can. If we listen to Jesus, what he said to nation, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? We can come together once again and fight to secure pro-labor, anti-poverty policies that will uplift the poor. We can have educational equality. We can have health care for all and environmental protection. We can change the criminal justice system and address the disparities that happen to black, brown, and poor white people. And we can protect and expand voting rights and women's rights and LGBT rights and labor rights and immigrant rights. And we can claim once again that principle that was written into the Constitution in the 14th Amendment, which is equal protection under the law for every citizen, regardless of your race, your creed, your color, or your sexuality. Now, we can build, why are we trying to build a coalition of religious leaders? Because Psalm 94 says, who will rise up for me against the evildoers? That's a question God put on the lips of the psalmist in a time of political oppression and systematic injustice. Who will dissent? Who will challenge what's going on? Or the language that God put in the lips of Amos, woe unto you who are at ease in Zion. Woe unto you in the Message Bible who live in luxury and expect everyone else to serve them. Somebody must say, whoa, stop, hold up. Or what Jeremiah was told, Jeremiah 22. In the Message Bible it says, this is God's order. Don't send a text to the governor. Don't send an email. Don't merely go down and be content with having cookies and cream. Jeremiah 22 says, go to the palace and tell the king what God says. God says, rescue victims from their exploiters. Stop taking advantage of the homeless, the orphans, the widows, and stop passing policies that literally murder people. We believe that moral dissent can never take a vacation. You know, it was prophet, yes, and Rabbi Herschel, who said prophecy is the voice that God has lent to the silent agony, a voice to the plundered poor, to the profane riches of this world. But prophecy is a form of living, crossing point of God and humanity. God is raging, in the words of the prophet. And Walter Brueggemann says that the prophetic role is not first to figure out the implementation, but the imagination. That the role of the prophet is to preach the kind of hope that is the refusal to accept the reading of reality, which is the majority opinion. But it's subversive hope. It's the kind of hope that'll get you killed for simply saying to a world, a country bent on racism, I have a dream. But we need that subversive hope. We need that rage, once again, prophetic rage. Moral dissent is God's way of saying there's another way and things don't have to have it. So why am I so glad, Rabbi, that you allowed me to speak in this temple today here in Selma? Because I believe here in Selma, as we prepare to march for the 50th time across that bridge named after the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, that right here in Selma, we need to be reminded of the need for prophetic rage. We need to be reminded of what the Jewish people taught us. Who will stand up for me? We need to be reminded that we still need prophets and prophetic people who will preach and declare and live out subversive hope. I want you to know that I did not come here for a celebration or a party, but for a recommitment and a holy convocation. I came here hoping that Elijah's mantle would fall on us as Elisha today. I came here hoping that the same spirit would grab us that grabbed rabbis and Christian clergy 50 years ago. Why? Because as we sit here this morning, we are in the nation's poorest region. The majority of the people that are poor in this country live in the South 50 years after Selma. 12 poorest states are Southern. The former Confederate states set the gold standard for economic deprivation. Of the 10 states where child poverty exceeds 25%, 9 of them are right here in the South. And in most of these states, black children are over 40% are poor. The poorest counties in this country are led by, in so-called red states, led by Republican extremists. Right in this country right now, the average CEO makes 350 times the average worker while we are rolling back labor rights. We need some prophetic rage once again. We need some subversive hope once again. We need to raise that question: who will stand up? Who will not be at ease in Zion? Who will go down to the places of power? When we come here today, 24 states, mostly in the South, have denied Medicaid expansion. That's 8 million people, and for every 500,000, 2,500 people die. That's 2,500 times 16. If you're concerned, as you should be, about one Michael Brown and one Eric Garner being dead, you've got to be concerned about the thousands that are dying. Not because Yahweh God, Jehovah God called them home, but because a governor will not sign a piece of paper to ensure them Medicaid expansion. That is a form of political abortion. That is a form of murder. I know it is. I know it is. And the reason I know it's a form of murder is not because I said it, Ezekiel said it. Because Ezekiel once said, your leaders are acting like wolves who are filled with rabies, who are ravaging and eating the very flesh. And when Ezekiel said that, he was talking about the leadership. Medicaid has become the new civil war. Education and resegregation of our schools is higher now than it was in 1970. 60 years after Brown. High poverty resegregated schools are the greatest hindrance to public education. And then we keep seeing cops gone crazy, having episode after episode after episode. Otto Schwammer calls it attention violence. And then that's where I want to get, and I'm through. In the midst of all of that, and I'm through, we come here to Selma to march across this bridge. Where's Brother Swanner's brother? Swanner, Cheney, Goodman. Where's Goodman? Goodman's brother. Yeah. I look at him and I think about those deaths, and I think about how Ronald Reagan started his presidential campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and sent a signal in 1980, and how Ronald Reagan, in that speech, said that the Voting Rights Act was unconstitutional. And then I think about how Justice Roberts, on June 25, 2013, said the nation is no longer divided along the lines that caused the need for the Voting Rights Act. And then I think about how Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a Jewish justice, in a blistering dissent, said that what the Supreme Court did was hubris, and that we ought to remember Bloody Sunday. And she quoted Dr. King about the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Then I think about Rabbi Gutman, how 2 hours after Shelby, Texas started turning back voting rights in a way we hadn't seen since '65. And then less than 30 days, North Carolina wrote the worst voter suppression law since '65. And all of these laws would have been stopped by pre-clearance. But the Supreme Court, in a 5-4 vote on June 2013, gutted the Voting Rights Act. And we're going to march across the bridge where the Voting Rights Act was won with no Voting Rights Act. with the heart being cut out of it. That's why this can't merely be a celebration. And now the Tea Party has offered a fix. Now I want you all to hear this, because rabbis, I think we're going to have to put on our prayer shawls and our stoles and go sit down in Washington, D.C. and refuse to be moved. Because I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to tell it, because some of the advocates don't even want it told, because they're telling me, well, Barber, you just need to go along and accept, because this is the best we can do with the Tea Party. Well, what if the people that marched across that bridge said this is the best we could do? And now they are offering a fix. And let me tell you, if the Sensenbrenner, say Sensenbrenner, you ought to know about that bill. If the Sensenbrenner bill was passed today to so-called fix what the Supreme Court did, Selma would not be covered. That's what they're getting ready to debate in Congress. Alabama would not be covered. North Carolina would not be covered. South Carolina, where they still fly the Confederate flag, would not be covered. Virginia would not be covered. Tennessee would not be covered. Florida would not be covered. In other words, if they pass this bill as it is, we would have less coverage today than we won in 1965. I believe we need some prophetic rage. Somebody ought to say, it's not over yet. We cannot be at ease in Zion. We might march across this bridge, but we need to march on Washington, D.C. We need to hook up again as Jews and Christians and Catholics and Muslims and say we will not allow America to go backwards. So the question is, do we still want what God wants? God wants justice. God wants love. And Rabbi, come up here and I'm through, but I need to hold your hand like a Pentecostal and finish this sermon. I'm glad to be among the moral dissenters today. I'm glad to be among the Jewish people that know if you're going to fight Pharaoh, you got to stand up and say, let my people go. I'm glad to be among the people that know if you're going to deal with Nebuchadnezzar, you got to be willing to go in the fire and trust God to show up. I'm glad to be in the midst of moral dissenters. Abraham Herschel is not coming back. Dr. King is not coming back. Twana Chaney Goodman are not coming back. But I want to know, are there children here? Are those who love them here? And so my prayer for us as we march today is to go across that bridge. And I don't know what Jewish people sing, but I want you to sing with me a hymn we sing in the Christian faith. It says, revive us again. Fill each heart with thy love. Let each soul be rekindled with fire from above. Hallelujah. Send the rage. Hallelujah. Loose the prophets. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.